I asked all of you, what was your biggest challenge in 2024? And 52% of you said it was not enough leads. And after being in the real estate industry now for 20 years, I have tried every single thing to generate leads. And in this video, I'm going to break it all down. I'm going to rank each one so that A, you never have a leads problem again. And then you can decide which lead generation strategy makes the most sense for you so that that never gets in the way of you earning the money that you desire. And really quick, before we jump in, if you're watching this video and you're not earning at least $10,000 a month, every month, I'm talking about consistently, month in and month out, I'm going to put a link right in the description of this video. Feel free to schedule a free Zoom call where we will break down exactly what you have to do to start generating a six-figure income in this business of real estate sales. And the best part is it's going to be built on helping you get a listing agent business such that you can stop chasing buyers around and get your nights and weekends back. All right, so quick disclaimer. Every single tactic, every strategy that we're going to discuss in this video works if you work. And at the same time, nothing in this video is going to work if you don't do the work. You see, there's nothing out there where you can do nothing and get a ton of clients except for like maybe waiting around. And we know that waiting isn't a high value strategy, which is what most agents do, is they sit around and wait for business to find them until it's too late and they end up having to get out of the business. All right, so let's first talk about the 6 ways to generate leads. Now, there are methodologies, there are strategies, and there are tactics. These are the only 6 methodologies that you can use to acquire new clients. Later in this video, we're going to talk about and break down all the different strategies to acquire new clients. But there are only 6, so don't get this twisted. You don't have to be confused. Number 1 is unpaid outbound, meaning you're not paying anything to acquire a lead, and you have to be the one who's generating a conversation. So it's free lead generation, and it requires you to generate the actual conversation. Number 2 is unpaid inbound. So again, this is you not paying for anything, and this is a strategy, which we'll talk about later in this video, to get people to call you, which is probably what most of you want. Okay. And then number 3 is what we call paid outbound. This is where you're paying to acquire data. We'll talk about it later, but then you have to go and be the one who initiates that conversation. You have to go and reach out to them. Number 4 is paid inbound. Okay, so this is where you're paying to have people call you. Number 5 is your sphere of influence or past clients. And then number 6 is referrals. So these are the only 6 ways to acquire new clients. Now we're going to break down every single strategy, and I'm going to rank them so that you can see, okay, what are the pros? What are the cons? What makes the most sense for me? All right, so here's how the scoring system works. All right, I'm going to give each strategy a rating of A, B, C, or D. And these are based on A, conversion timelines. How long does it take to convert the lead from start to finish? Number 2, what type of skills are required to generate the lead? Does it need a ton of skills? Does it not need that much skill? Number 3, profitability. What is the profit margin based on that lead generation strategy? How much money are you going to make? And then number 4 is competition. Is there a lot of people, a lot of other agents competing for the same leads, or is there no competition? And so that's how we're going to score and rank each lead generation strategy. All right, so let's start off this conversation by talking about what everyone seems to be talking about, which is building a personal brand on social media and using social media to generate and acquire new clients. Now, here's what we're not talking about when it comes to social media. And this is where I think a lot of agents really have a hard time with this one. They think that, and I wrote down here, we're not talking about making cute images on Canva, like you're just listed, just sold, or open house, or closing day, and all those little cute images that agents make on Canva. We're not talking about that. That is not what we are referring to when we're talking about social media. And that's what I think a lot of leaders in this business get wrong too. It's like, use social media to get clients. It's like, well, how? What we're talking about in the world of client acquisition is really content marketing. All right. So let me spend a few minutes talking about what this is. Number one, this is an unpaid inbound lead generation approach. All right. So we're going to create content. We're going to put that content in front of the right audience. And then that audience is going to opt in for some type of lead magnet, which is going to put them into your funnel. And through that nurturing of that funnel generates a lead or an appointment. All right. So let me give you some examples. And here's the thing about content marketing is everybody is, I think when it comes to lead generation, they're looking for the path of least resistance. They're looking at how can I do as little as possible and get the most in return. And I get it. That's human nature. All right. So the myth is, well, social media, building an online brand, that's easy. There's no rejection. That's not true. If you're going to succeed in content marketing, you're going to have to put your rear end in front of the camera when you don't feel like it, make content on a consistent basis. And it is much, much more difficult than I think most agents realize. In fact, I actually had one of the agents on my podcast who you could argue is the top agent when it comes to social media and content marketing, Shannon Gillette. Here's what she had to say. When a new agent gets started in the business, right? They'll hear somebody like you and you will inspire them to say, all right, I'm going to get on camera. I'm going to make this thing happen. You said it at the beginning of our conversation. I want to circle back to it is that one, an agent will say, okay, they'll get the courage. They'll make a video. They'll put it out there and they don't get instant results. And they say, well, what the heck? This doesn't work. They're comparing Shannon Gillette's chapter 20 to their chapter 1. Can you speak to, because to your point, I don't care what you do to generate new clients, but it takes a lot of consistent effort. Can you walk through what it takes to make the amount of content that you're making so that people don't look at this or hear this interview and say, oh, that's easy? Because it isn't easy. Because I'm in the content business too. We're doing 20 pieces of unique content a week and you're pumping out so much. Walk us through what that takes.
Yeah, so it's not easy. It requires a lot of discipline and consistency. It also requires a lot of sacrifice. You have to be very intentional with your schedule. I can't watch traditional TV. I have to get up early. I have to live by, every minute of my day because I'm also a mom with kids. Like my goal is to eat dinner with my family every day if I can. And I do lead a small team, but I'm also actively in production. I take buyers out. I take on sellers. So it's very difficult to find the time. And I think a lot of agents are waiting to be in the mood to film video or for everything to be perfect. And it's never going to be perfect. So I schedule at least every other week. I found a studio in my town where I write scripts and I go and I just sit in front of the teleprompter and I knock out content, whether it's reels, answering frequently asked questions or educating the consumers or even educating other realtors, or frequently asked questions. And my client experience has been incredible this year because we have a video for every step of the way, like your home's under contract, here's what to expect next. So I'm going into the studio. I'm never in the mood to be there. I have all the excuses in the world of why I should reschedule this shoot. I have nothing to wear. I mean, I just now wear black. It's just, I don't even care if I wear the same shirt, just wear black, get in front of the camera. You're never going to be in the mood. You just have to do it. And you have to schedule it, and you have to think of that video content shoot like it's a $5 million listing presentation. You're not going to reschedule that listing presentation, and know that it's not going to be easy at first. Everything we do for the first time is difficult. Like your first listing presentation, the first time you took out buyers, you are much better at that now because you've been doing this a ton of times. So it's very difficult. And a lot of people have issues like figuring out, well, what do I talk about? Every video I film, I'm like, nobody wants to hear this. This is so ridiculous. And then I'll put it out there and it's crazy. I mean, I took my iPhone out to a new build subdivision, horrible audio, horrible quality. And I've literally made $60,000 off that one video from just the inbound traffic because people were searching for that new home subdivision. So I would advise agents to follow people that inspire them. get a plan in place and don't give up. It's going to take probably a few years for you to be making a lot of money off of your video content, but you have to start somewhere.
And so when we're talking about social media or content strategy, rather, there's many, many different ways to do it, right? You can use YouTube, you can use Instagram, Facebook, etc. You probably won't be able to use TikTok here very much longer, as it's about to get banned. But here's the big idea. The big idea is to create content that, again, would attract what we call your ideal client avatar. All right. So we're talking about making content that maybe you want to go after luxury sellers. Maybe you want to go after military relocation. Maybe you want to go after relocation in general. Maybe you want to go after first-time homebuyers. It's to pick an ideal demographic, create content that would resonate with that audience, content that they would actually find value in, some educational, valuable content that they can say, wow, I actually learned something. That was actually really, really good. And then have some type of call to action in the content for them to opt into something. We call this a lead magnet. Okay, so a lead magnet could be, just as an example, my cheat sheet to get to maximize the value of your equity, things that most sellers don't know. And you could have somebody opt into that in exchange for their contact information. And then once you get that contact information, they go into your CRM, they go into your sales funnel, and then you reach out to those people to generate hopefully a high quality appointment. All right. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about content marketing. You're not paying any money. We're not talking about paid advertising on social platforms. We're talking about you creating free organic content on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, that your ideal client avatar finds value in. Then they opt into your call to action, and then you reach out to them and convert the lead. All right. So when we're talking about rating this lead source, the thing is, right, when we talk about conversion timelines, typically, not always, but typically, when somebody starts a social media content marketing strategy, on average, it takes about a year before they really get this thing going. So much so that I interviewed another really good agent who built her business on Instagram specifically. And here's what she had to say as far as how long it took her to get going. So you start doing this. How long was it before you started to get people to reach out to you and say, hey, like I want to give the audience an idea of how much you put into it before you started getting results?
Yeah. So I will say I got my first client from an agent referral. They sent me a referral, and then that client sent me someone else. But how long did it take me to start getting organic buyers and sellers from my social media? Almost a year. Almost an entire year.
And so because timelines they're long, right? I mean, it's 6, 12, 18 months before you can start getting clients through this channel. And that's tough. That's tough. Most agents cannot do something consistently for a month, 2 months, 3 months, let alone a year, year and a half, 2 years. No way. Let's talk about the skills required. This also requires a high level of skill. You have to be able to present on camera. You have to be able to articulate points in such a way that is captivating to an audience. You actually have to have some technology skills to create the content and post the content and create your sales funnel and create your lead magnets and create your sales funnel and all the follow-up campaigns in your CRM and connect everything, et cetera, et cetera. It requires a level of skill. Now, from a profitability standpoint, it's all pretty much pure profit, right? Because you're putting your time and your effort into the lead generation strategy. So when you close a deal from this strategy, it's pretty much all pure profit. And from a competition standpoint, there really isn't any, right? This is you creating content. You're building your tribe. And so the great thing about social media is that there is no competition. So when you're generating content that resonates with a certain audience, and that audience reaches out to you specifically, they did so because they resonate with your message. They like your personality. They like what you stand for, et cetera, et cetera. So you're not competing with other agents. And so because of that, I'm going to give this a C rating, okay? But it has the potential to have an A rating. So if you can be really, really consistent with social media and you can build a sales funnel, this thing could be super profitable and generate leads for you 24 hours a day, 365. It never calls in sick. Your content lives forever. It continues to get in front of the right audience. So it has a huge potential for those agents that can be consistent. All right. So moving on to strategy number 2, which is internet leads. So let's define internet leads. Let's talk about what this is. This is in the paid outbound bucket. So you are paying different companies to acquire contact information that then you have to turn around and go and call. All right. So this is things like, there's really 2 types of internet lead that you can buy. There are property specific leads like Zillow leads, like Realtor.com, where what you're paying for is a consumer who is on their site, who expressed some interest around a specific property. Okay. Now, those are the most expensive types of leads. They have a higher conversion, which is great, but they are definitely the most expensive. And then the other type of internet lead, which is what I think most agents start off with, is what we call forced registration leads. All right. So these are leads that typically companies like Boomtown or Commissions Inc. or Real Geeks or YLopo, et cetera, companies like that take your advertising dollars and they put it into either Facebook pay-per-click or Google pay-per-click. And so what they do, the call to action on these ads, is they're forcing the consumer who is on the site to give their contact information in exchange for property details. And so here's the thing. These types of leads, okay, again, I think a lot of agents really, really misunderstand what's going on here. They think that when they give a company their credit card, that in exchange, they're going to get these people that are ready to buy and sell a house today. Wow, is that far from the truth? In fact, I had Spring Benson on the podcast not too long ago who has succeeded in this lead generation strategy, maybe more so than any agent in the country. Here's what she had to say about her own strategy.
And I do agree with you as well. I actually think an internet lead is a harder conversion. I truthfully do.
Yeah.
It's a whole different animal. It's the path of least resistance, but somewhere they think they're not getting rejected.
I know it. Well, here's the thing Zillow just put out is like over 90% of FSBOs on Zillow offer a buyer agent commission and say agents are welcome. So like the argument that I'm making, I'm like, well, if you go and buy the lead for X amount of dollars and you commit to thousands and thousands of dollars, you could just call them direct for free.
Yeah.
And they're expecting you to call. That's a debate that it's just a mindset that, to your point, that I find very interesting because the agent's like, well, I'm not going to cold call. I just can't accept that. But I could buy leads and call these people. And to your point, they feel fine with that.
Well, so here's the thing, Brendan, I don't believe agents are great at internet leads.
Oh, they're terrible. They're terrible.
Hence why I have an ISA department at this. I've wasted a lot of time and money on internet leads because here's the deal, is that depending upon the funnel, and when I say funnel, there's high quality leads and lower quality. Don't get me wrong, leads are leads, but there's some that cost more that have it. They actually, like as Zillow said, I want to see this home. And then there's the people who don't even realize they registered, right? But that lower quality lead that's a forced registration, that conversion cycle is almost 600 plus days. You can't tell me a realtor is going to follow up for 600 plus days. So I do a lot of coaching of teams. I have a coaching product of teams and stuff. And when they ask me, hey, should I invest in this internet or should I get this Boomtown or whatever it is? I'm like, that depends. It depends on what you're going to do with the leads because you're going to get them in. But if you don't have somebody who's willing to nurture them for the next 2 years, then you're just wasting your money.
And so when we look at internet leads again, and we say, okay, the agent's mindset is, okay, well, I don't want to cold call. So I'm going to just go buy leads from this company. I can wrap my head around calling those. What they find most of the time is, well, that's exactly what it is a cold call. These people didn't ask to be called. They didn't know they were going to be called. It was this company's way of generating a lead in exchange for the money you're paying them every single month. And so when we look at ranking this and we look at the conversion timelines of taking a year and a half, sometimes 2 years of consistent follow-up before you get your first conversion, man, that's tough. That's tough for most agents. Skills required. Okay. This absolutely requires a lot of sales skills, a lot of lead follow-up skills. You have to be very, very organized. Profitability is probably one of the lowest profitability, right? So if you're going to use this model, the problem that most people that have an internet lead based model would tell you that the margin on it is like 20%. So out of every dollar made, they're only able to really keep 20 cents of the dollar that was earned. And then competition, depending on exactly where you're getting the lead from, could be really, really high competition, right? If you get a lead from company X and that company is selling it to 5, 10 different other agents, man, that's going to be tough. That's where the speed to lead comes into play. And so from a ranking perspective, all right, if I were to rank this, I'm going to rank internet leads a D. It's the last on the totem pole. Again, why? Because it takes so long to convert, right? They're super, super expensive. It takes a ton of skill. They aren't what I think most agents think they are when they sign up to buy internet leads. They find out really, really quick, well, geez, I mean, this is harder than just cold calling. And so oftentimes they don't stick with it long enough to actually get the return on investment. All right, strategy number 3, open houses. Now, most people have heard of open houses, but rarely do they understand what it takes to have open houses succeed. So open houses is in the unpaid inbound lead generation family, if you will. Okay. And we're not talking about the agent who does one open house, every other month, sits in that open house for 2 hours and says, well, man, open houses just don't work. We're not talking about that. Okay. What we're talking about is using open houses as an actual proactive lead generation strategy to generate not just buyers, but sellers. Okay. I really like open houses for a couple of reasons. Number one, you get to pick where you work. Now, unlike other lead sources that you don't get to control, you might be going on showings an hour and a half away. You might be going on a listing appointment 45 minutes away. With open houses, it's like, well, dude, I know I want to sell real estate in that neighborhood. And so you get to pick. I like that. The next thing is price point. You get to pick the price point, right? Unlike some other lead generation strategies, you kind of get what you get, right? You don't get to decide. And so with open houses, it's like, okay, I want to sell houses in that neighborhood at that price point. And then lastly, you get to pick the product. I want to pick where I work. I want to pick the price point, and I want to pick the type of product that I sell. And so maybe that's a property at a certain price point where it's very, very profitable. It sells really, really quickly. And maybe it's new construction. Maybe it's condos. Maybe it's luxury. Maybe it's whatever type of product that it is. You get to decide on all of that. And so, wow, that's a lot of upsides. And so, again, we're not talking about picking some random home. We're talking about having an actual strategy. And so I had one of the agents who has succeeded in open houses, who's selling 10 homes a month via open houses. He probably is the most successful agent when it comes to open houses in the country. And here's a little bit about his strategy and how he approaches this. So for context, how much business is your team of 16 doing? Let's just say per month, or for the last 12 months, how many closings will you guys do?
This year will probably be around 125. So we're a new team. We got started last June. There's 3 of us, 2 brand new agents and myself, and there's now 16 of us. We're now, this year, we're averaging about 10 to 12 a month.
That's amazing. I love it. And what percent of your business is coming via the way of open houses?
Probably at least 80%.
80%. I mean,
because I personally don't have a ton of referral business. And then my coach I have he doesn't like online leads at all. So when I started with him, he's like, you need to find something that's not online leads because they just don't convert well and they cost too much. You want to keep costs down as much as possible. So open houses is pretty much how I do everything. And now because of that, I'm receiving referrals because of the open houses and people seeing me do open houses all the time. So they're like, oh, wow, this guy actually works hard, and we see him always doing stuff. But in some sort, open houses are literally pretty much everything.
Yeah, I love it. And I would agree. I think that buying the business through, whether you're buying leads, the conversion just is not there. And then most importantly, the profitability just doesn't make sense when you get into it. So how many people on average are you getting to come through an open house?
0 to 4 groups.
Yeah. 0 to 4
groups.
Yeah. And for context, how many open houses are you doing? That's really where I think the rubber meets the road. Like, how much volume are you doing?
Worst case, 5 a week. Realistically, 7 a week.
So 5 to 7 open houses per week. This is, again, why I want to have you on the show, because I think some agents will do an open house once a month or do an open house every couple of months, have 0 to 4 groups through there, not get a lead, and then say open houses are a waste of time. On average, How many, you guys are getting what, 7? Well, I say you guys, but you specifically, you're getting what, 7 to 10 leads per week?
Yeah, I would say we pull, I would say about 75% of everything that comes through. So if 4 come in, we're getting 3.
All right. So when it comes to ranking open houses as a lead generation strategy, first, when we look at conversion timelines, I mean, it's kind of all over the place. You could get a conversion right away, but typically it probably takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months on average for you to close your first deal with open houses if you're consistent. And then from there, you can close deals every single month. Skills required is pretty low. It's pretty low to go out there and find a property to hold open. And really, because it's an inbound approach, people are coming to you. So there's not a lot of skills required. Profitability, it's almost 100% profit. And then competition, very, 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 very low. And so I'm going to give this a B rating. I really, really like open houses for the agent who doesn't have a lot of money, who isn't going to do any proactive lead generation. They can't just wrap their head around going out there and generating conversations. They just, that doesn't fit their personality. They can do very, very, very well with open houses. All right, moving on to strategy number 4, referral partners. So let's talk about what I mean by referral partners. So this is an unpaid inbound lead generation approach. All right. So with referral partners, we are taking what traditionally is a B to C business model, which is what most realtors are, and turning that into a B to B business model. Here's what I mean. So you're probably, if you're watching this and you're a realtor, you're very, very used to or comfortable with this idea of being on the opposite side of this strategy, like mortgage loan officers reaching out to you every single day, wanting to take you to lunch. Why? Because you have the clients that they want you to refer to them, or home warranty people, or home inspectors, or title reps, et cetera, et cetera. These are all people that their lead generation strategy is primarily on the strategy that we're talking about right now, which is referral partners. And so when I coach a mortgage loan officer or a title sales rep, we teach them to go out there and build a referral partner network of realtors, right? You'd probably say that makes a lot of sense, but you yourself as the real estate agent, I don't know if you've ever thought about this in terms of your own lead generation, your own client acquisition, to say, well, what are the business professionals that are adjacent to my industry that are working with the buyers and the sellers that could refer me business? And so you can turn this, maybe this fits your personality. Maybe you come out of corporate America. Maybe you're just a better B2B salesperson than you are a B2C salesperson. And you start to go out there and network and build relationships with attorneys, specifically divorce attorneys. And you become part of their service offering. Every divorce attorney has to have a real estate agent that they are able to refer listings to by the way of court order. And so I'm not going to get into this whole thing around divorce, but they need a good realtor to refer. Probate, same thing. A probate attorney is dealing with clients who have, most of the time, real estate as a part of the estate that needs to be sold in order to settle the case. And so the reason why probate attorneys are such great referral partners, both of these have been great referral partners for me over the years, is because most of the time, these personal representatives that are responsible for settling the estate are having to deal with real estate in areas in which they don't have relationships. And so they're relying on the attorney to help them as much as possible. And these attorney referrals are amazing. Couple more examples. Elder care attorneys. So these are people that are dealing with the elder who are transitioning out of living on their own, potentially into assisted living. They need a real estate agent to refer to. Estate planning attorneys, same thing. Insurance agents. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of insurance agents on every corner. The State Farms, the AAAs, the Allstates, et cetera, et cetera. They're all sitting there quoting out homeowners insurance policies for people that are shopping for homes. And so if you don't have 3, 4, 5 insurance agents that are referral partners, maybe it's a great place for you to start. Here's another example. This has been really, really lucrative for me over the years, which is to have some type of relationship with a company. So we call this the real estate benefit program. And so you can partner with companies becoming part of their employee benefit program such that you can have relationships with, let's just give you an example. We have done these with hospitals and with local schools. And there are things called doctor loans and there are special loans for teachers. Not going to get into all of that, which is part of the offer. But you can partner with these companies, do lunch and learns, become part of their employee benefit package where you're having their employees use your real estate services as a part of their benefit package and offer all type of incentives to be part of their benefit package. And so it's a really good way to have inbound business on a consistent basis long term. And then lastly, there's a lot more than this. I'm just giving you some examples to get your mind thinking, is assisted living sales managers. Okay. So these are people that are sitting in, which seems to be popping up everywhere, assisted living facilities where elderly people are coming to live. And the vast majority of them, as far as being able to afford the care, comes by selling their primary residence. And so there's a lot of agents that I coach that work in this niche. And it's a great way, it's a great relationship to have in your business. Now, when we look at this strategy and we start to say, okay, let's rate the strategy. When we look at conversion timelines, yes, it's going to take a little bit of time. All right. It's going to take a little bit of time for you to build these relationships, probably take a good year or two before you could start to expect any type of real business coming via way of this channel. Takes a lot of skills, right? You got to really go out there and build confidence with these relationships. Profitability is very, very, very high, and there is absolutely no competition. So I'm going to give this a C to start with an A potential, because once you have these relationships like I have for now 15 years, I'm getting 5, 6, 7 listings a month, inbound referrals from my referral partners because they have to offer the service as a part of their profession. So just imagine a world, you've got these relationships that are not easy to get, but once you do get them and you provide their clients with phenomenal service, they keep sending you referrals for the rest of your career. Probably the same way you do with your mortgage loan officer partner. You probably refer them your buyers, and you probably will do so as long as they keep doing a great job. You probably will do that for the rest of your career. All right, let's move on to strategy number 5, which is geographic farming. All right, this is probably one of the oldest lead generation strategies out there. This falls under paid inbound. So the big idea here is that with geographic farming is you're going to pick a neighborhood or two And primarily, you're going to invest into direct mail on a consistent basis over a long period of time in hopes that after those homeowners see your message month after month after month after month, when it comes time for them to sell their home, that they call you. So that's the inbound side of things, right? Now, geographic farming, if I were to look at, okay, how am I going to rate this? Conversion timelines, again, takes forever. Takes a very, very long time to get a geographic farm to start producing listings. On average, usually takes about 18 months, all right, before you get your first listing. So it's going to require you to invest potentially, hundreds or even thousands of dollars per month for a year, year and a half, sometimes 2 years without getting any return. Again, most agents can't do that. Skills required is almost zero. Yeah, you probably need some copy. You probably need a decent call to action, a decent offer, some decent copywriting skills. But quite frankly, I mean, there's a lot of companies that can just do it for you. So there's not a lot of skill involved, which is a good thing. Profitability is very, very, very low. I mean, you're going to have to make a ton of investment for a long period of time for you to actually get a return. And then it's going to take you more and more listings to start to break even on that farm. And then competition is very, very low. But for all those reasons, I'm going to give this a D. I don't love this for most agents. Just takes way too long. It's way too expensive. There's a lot of other things you could do instead. All right, strategy number 6, which is networking groups. All right, so I'm going to be quick on this one. What I've said for years is networking is not working. All right, I don't love these at all. And for a couple reasons, this is on the paid inbound side. All right, so these groups can be anywhere from, I don't know, $300 to $500 to $800 a year to be part of these networking groups. And the problem with these groups, and I'm trying not to be offensive, but it's just kind of the reality of being around these things for 20 years, is that most people that are part of these networking groups are wearing a badge that says, I don't have any clients, which is why I'm here, hoping to get a handout from you. And that's what I don't like about them. The whole thing is designed for victims, for people that are looking for handouts. In fact, some of these networking groups talk about, like, in order to stay in, you must give X, Y, and Z names and numbers to stay part of the group. And so people go there because they can't generate their own referrals. They can't generate their own business at all. So they go there and hoping that people are going to just hand them referrals. Well, the reality is that, I mean, like we just talked about with referral partners, a lot of people have gone out there and earned these relationships over years and years and years and years. To think that you're going to just step into some round table over some shitty donuts and some bad coffee and just think that people owe you referrals is kind of insane to me. Now, sometimes some people have had success with these, but I would say for the vast majority of people, this is a colossal waste of time. And so I'm going to just be quick on this. I'm going to grade this a D. I almost thought about giving this an F just because it's such a waste of time. And the people in those typically aren't your thriving entrepreneurs that you would even want to have a relationship in the first place. All right, strategy number 7, radio and billboards. Okay, so when we talk about radio and billboards, this is on the paid inbound side. This is almost, I would almost consider this just like a branding play, more so than a lead generation strategy. This is for like less than 1% of the 1% of real estate agents ever do this. And the ones that do this have many other lead generation strategies that are very, very successful, that allow them to have excess capital, extra capital that they can just burn into the brand. What I mean by burn, meaning they don't have to get a return on the money whatsoever. They can go and get billboards that are, $800, $1,000, $1,500 a month. They don't need the money at all. They can just burn it. They don't need to get a return on that dollar. All they're looking to do is put their face on the major highway so that everybody can see them as they're driving by. They're just trying to build the personal brand. Same thing with radio. This is more of a branding. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this just because this is so outside of the scope of what most agents need to do to generate clients. Conversion timelines, let me just go like this. So with conversion timelines, could be never. I mean, it's going to be maybe never, that someone sees your billboard and as a result of the billboard itself, well, I saw your billboard on XYZ highway, and because of that, I was hoping you could come over and talk to us about listing our house. So it could be never. You might never get an actual conversion from it. Skills required, 0. Profitability is the lowest out of any lead generation because of how expensive this is. And then competition is probably 0. But as a result of that, again, I mean, I give it a D. I should give it an F because there's probably never a time in your career where you have to do this unless you become so successful, like I talked about before, where you have thousands of dollars to a month to just blow, to just throw in a garbage can and just burn it. Once you get to that point, perhaps you start getting on the radio and start getting on TV ads and start doing the mass advertising like billboards, where you don't need the money at all. It's just like, I've got this excess capital, I need a write-off. Let me just go burn it into billboards, radio, and TV. All right, strategy number 8 for sale by owners and expired listings. Now, this is on the side of unpaid outbound. Okay, unpaid meaning you could get this data. I don't even want to call it a lead. You can get the data for free. Okay, and if it's not free, it's like pennies for these homeowners' contact information. So I don't even consider this a paid approach. Some agents want to debate that. Well, it's like, I don't know. You can get these leads, FSBOs and expireds, for $60 a month from tons of different companies. I would just more so say that that's just the cost of doing business. If $60, $70 a month is like too much for you, you got to really ask yourself, okay, should I be in business for myself? Now, that's a separate conversation. FSBOs and expireds are the lowest hanging fruit in real estate. This is why they're probably the most popular when it comes to lead generation, because it's the only opportunity that we have in real estate where we know people have their hand raised saying, I want to buy, I want to sell. The reason why real estate is so difficult from a client acquisition, from a lead generation standpoint, which is what all of you have told me, which is your biggest problem, is unlike other industries, people don't do it all that often. So it's so difficult to first find people that want to buy or sell. Like, that's why it's so hard. Think about if you were an insurance salesperson. Every single person who owns a car or owns a house is a prospect. It's like you could just look around and have hundreds and thousands of unlimited prospects. Not in real estate. In real estate, what do people move? Every 7, 8, 9, 10 years? I mean, you probably don't know anybody personally right this second who's like listing their house. It's so rare. That's the upside to for sale by owners and expired listings is you've got a group of people in your market that have their hand in the sky that says, I'm selling my house. So for that reason, they're really, really good. They're really great opportunities to get now business. They have the absolute fastest conversion out of any lead source that I've ever tried in 20 years. I mean, you could call a for sale by owner today and get a listing today. Same thing with a fresh expired or a fresh withdrawn or a fresh withdrawn or canceled listing. You could call them today and get a listing contract signed today. Happens all the time. And so that's why a lot of people go after them. So so those are the upsides. The other upside is it helps to inject some quick cash. So if an agent's just getting started and they have no sphere of influence or they have no pipeline, it's like, well, let me just go after this low-hanging fruit, start generating some cash right away because the conversion is so short. Now, with upsides, this has great downsides too, all right? So the downside is not all the time, but typically they are tougher clients to deal with. The expired listing has gone through one or two other agents before, and so they've got this bad taste in their mouth. The for sale by owner who thought they were going to sell it on their own and they thought they knew everything, who ends up having to get 20, 30, 40, 50 calls a day from realtors for months and months and months before they finally say, okay, let me list it with one of these agents. They're typically tougher clients, not every time. Number two, they're typically tougher properties to sell. So if you think about the expired listing, well, why? You know, why are all the other properties selling and then that one didn't sell? Yes, maybe it's price. Yes, it's maybe seller motivation, but a lot of times the property's condition is also a challenge. Next challenge or next downside, they're scattered all over the place. They're scattered all over the market. And so you have no control where for sale by owners pop up or where expired listings pop up. They might be an hour away. They might be an hour and a half away. They might be 2 hours away. It's like, man, oh man, I need the cash, so I'll go. But ideally, I'd like to just go sell real estate down the street or in my neighborhood or the neighborhood over. And then the other downside rather, is insane amount of competition. I'm talking about immense competition because the conversion timelines are so short and they offer quick cash, which is what most realtors need. You got every Tom, Dick, and Harry going after these lead sources. And so competition is super, super high. So when we look at rating these, okay, again, conversion timelines is the shortest in the industry. That's really good. Skills required, very, 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 very high. You need a ton of sales skills in order to convert these. You can't just, wing it. You're going to get crushed by the competition. Profitability is very high. All right. So super high profit margin. Competition is also extremely, extremely high. And so for that reason, I'm going to rank this a B, has some good upside, but a ton of downside as well. All right, moving on to strategy number 9, which is the ISAs. So ISA stands for Inside Sales Agent. And so this would be under the paid outbound lead generation family. So the main idea here is that you're going to hire a human. You're going to invest into a human being to make outbound calls on your behalf. And they can call your internet leads for you. They can call the for sale by owners for you. They can call the expireds for you. They can cold call around different neighborhoods for you. They can do just listed, just sold calls. They can do any call you want them to do under any data source that you want them. You're leveraging your time with dollars, right? For these people to go out there and find people who have motivation to buy or sell, such that when you get on the phone, the main idea is that, okay, I have no problem getting on the phone with somebody who needs to buy or sell. I just don't want to, maybe I don't have the time to invest in finding those people. So this is for the agent who has more money than they do time on their hand. And they say, okay, because maybe they've got some other lead generation strategies that are working. So they're doing business. They have consistent stream of cash. And they say, okay, I'm going to invest back into my business, into some human capital. And I'm going to have the human, I'm going to leverage my time, have them make the calls on my behalf. And then I'm going to talk to people who they find for me who say, yes, I do want to sell. And no, I don't have a real estate agent. And yes, I would be open to interviewing such and such. And so it's a really good way to, we call it leverage lead generation. It's really, really good. But if I were to rank this and we look at conversion timelines, again, you could get a conversion really quick, but on average, it's going to take about 3 to 6 months for the thing to start really working. Okay. Skills required, you're going to need a lot of skills. And what I mean by a lot of skills is you're going to have some leadership skills. If you're going to have somebody work on your behalf, yes, you could outsource this to another company that would help you, but you're still going to need sales skills to follow up, convert, set the appointment, go on the appointment, present, and win the listing. So it requires a lot of skills. Profitable, as far as profitability goes, depending on how you structure it. I mean, it's not as profitable as some other things, but it's not as costly as, let's just say, internet leads. And then competition is zero, right? I mean, they're going to find leads for you that other agents don't even know about. And so I'm going to give this a B rating, which is a really good opportunity for you as you start to build your business and you have money to invest. After getting an assistant, you want to put money back into lead generation. I would much rather invest into an ISA than I would into internet leads. All right, strategy number 10, sphere of influence, or your SOI. All right. Now, when most people get into the business, because they're lucky, this is where most of their business is coming from. So when I talk to broker owners, team leaders, individual agents, and we say, okay, let's actually source where your closings are coming from, the vast majority of it is coming out of this group of people. Not because of them being proactive, but it's just generally the people that know you, know you're in the business, and they're just getting lucky. They're in the right time in the right place. Okay. So what I'm talking about when I'm talking about sphere of influence from a lead generation standpoint is I'm talking about actually being proactive to generate business from where I think most agents would want to get more business from, which is the people that they know, love, and trust, and those people that they know, love, and trust, right? So we're not talking about waiting, okay? I know, again, most agents, if they do 5 deals in a year, 4 came from their friends and family or their referrals, and then maybe 1 from an open house, right? But again, if you ask them, well, how did you get those 4 deals from them? What did you do specifically? What was number 1? Go ahead. They couldn't tell you. So what I'm talking about is like calling them on a consistent, on a cadence, on a specific cadence with a specific strategy as to why you're calling them. And no, it's not, using the old script of, hey, this is Bob, this is a business call. You're not using that crap. We're not talking about that. We're talking about how do you actually call with value on a strategic cadence. We're talking about, do you have a weekly email newsletter that is of great value that your people inside of the database can't wait to read every week? We're talking about, are you doing any type of community or client appreciation events? Are you doing anything like that? Are you doing any type of annual real estate reviews for your sphere of influence past client database? Are you reviewing what I call assets under management? Are you doing anything? Do you have any type of birthday program or birthday system to recognize people in your database around their birthdays? Right? These are just some ideas when it comes to playing offense to generate more business from the group of people I think you want to do business with. So if I'm going to rate sphere of influence, conversion timelines, it's all over the place, right? You don't really have any control over it at all, right? It takes some skills if you're going to proactively market to these people. Profitability should be fairly high, and there should be no competition, all right? I'm going to give it a B rating. Yeah, I'd give it an A rating if you were to work this the way that we're talking about. But if I would give it a B rating just for the simple fact of that's why most people got into the business. This is where they want most of their business to come from. They just don't have a strategy around it. All right, moving on to strategy 11, seminars and webinars. All right, so most agents that I've talked to, they've never done any of this, but these have been really good over the years. And so what am I talking about specifically? So this is under the paid inbound lead generation family. So we're talking about doing paid advertising to get a group of people to either show up digitally on a webinar or in person to a seminar where you're doing an educational event. Maybe you do like a wealth creation event, teaching people how to use real estate to create wealth and to consolidate debt, to increase cash flow, to lower their overall interest that they're paying on all of their debt as a form of lead generation. Maybe you're going to do a downsizer seminar. A lot of people do first-time homebuyer seminars. Maybe you could do a divorce real estate seminar or webinar with one of your divorce real estate partners. You see, these are all just examples, all right? So the main idea is, okay, I'm going to have this educational piece of content that I'm going to present via either digitally over a webinar. It could be a pre-recorded webinar. It could be a live webinar or a seminar. And then the call to action, right, where the lead actually gets created is some type of offer at the end of the presentation. Now, when we look at this from a rating perspective, conversion timelines, you could get conversions right on the event, right? This is why these have worked in the past, is you think about the people who attend the webinar. It's because they have typically the problem that the webinar or seminar promises to fix, right? So think about this first perspective. If somebody is going through they're going through the divorce process and they have questions about, well, what am I going to do with this house and what are my options? They might come to a webinar to learn about all of their different options when it comes to the marital home as a part of the divorce. Okay, so you could get a conversion right there on the spot. Conversion might be a lead or an appointment. All right. Skills requires a lot of skills, a lot of marketing skills, a lot of presentation skills, a lot of sales skills, a lot of showmanship skills. So high skills. Profitability can be very, very profitable if you really get this dialed in with your ad budget. And then competition is 0. All right. So I'm going to give this a C rating. For most agents, these are tough to pull off, but if you get them going, they could be very, very powerful. All right. Strategy number 4, which is blogging. Again, another strategy I don't see all that often. I don't know why, because this would be similar to a social media content strategy, but you're not having to put your face on camera. You don't need to use your voice. This is using your writing skills. So this is for agents who love to write. I love writing. I much, much, much prefer to write content than to make video content like I'm making right now. Much rather prefer that, okay? So the whole idea around blogging is to create content that people in the community would care about, all right? So what specifically? Well, the housing market. I mean, if you were to just Google your city and then housing market, you'd see all these news articles, which is getting tons of eyeballs, because that's how these news outlets get paid, is through advertising. And so you could just piggyback off of the stories that the news companies are talking about. You could talk about local businesses that are opening up. You could talk about local news, things that are happening. And then always having a call to action with inside the blog to download your lead magnet, right? And so you can generate a ton of leads through blogging 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, you write one blog, could generate you leads for the rest of your career. And if you get really good at this and you're posting a blog every single week, and then you're sending traffic to that blog via your newsletter, and maybe you put some paid advertising around your blog, get some traction, then it starts to rank on Google. And every single time you write a blog, you're generating tons and tons of leads. Might be a really good opportunity for you. So conversion timelines, it's very long, right? Anything that has to do with content marketing, because you're having to build an audience first, it's going to take at least a year. It's going to take at least a year of you being super, super consistent before you start generating any leads. Takes some skills, definitely takes a lot of skills. It's all profit, high profit margin, and there's no competition. So I'm going to give this a C rating, although it could be higher over time once you get it going. All right, strategy 13, which is one that nobody talks about, which is super powerful, which is the client experience. Now, let me just explain what I mean. We're talking about all these different ways to generate leads in an industry where most of you are telling me that leads are your biggest issue, all right? But one of the best ways to generate new business is by giving the client you have right now a world-class client experience. Here's what happens all too often. Most agents that I talk to or that I start coaching, they have like this turn and burn model. They spend all their time trying to chase down leads and convert the lead. And then as soon as they do, they forget about, okay, well, I already got this person who obviously trusts me, obviously respects me. Hopefully they like me. I'm already working with them. They forget that person and they move right on to trying to getting another client where it's like, hold on, wait a minute. Pump the brakes for just a second. If you took great care of this client right now and you gave them a raving fan experience, that person then becomes an advocate, tells everybody about you, and you start generating repeat and referral business on a consistent basis. Here's the truth, because I've experienced this myself, is that the need for any and all of these other lead generation things that we're talking about become obsolete. You don't even need to do any of them over time. And so I am guilty of this too. For the first half of my career, I was the turn and burn, right? I would prospect like crazy. Got really good with my sales skills. I generated a ton of listing appointments, ton of listings, et cetera, et cetera. But my client experience was awful. By the time we got to the closing, the client wanted nothing to do with me, and I never wanted to talk to them again because the experience was so bad that I got no repeat and no referral business. And then as I matured into the business, I started saying, wait a minute, what would happen if I took I was working so hard to get clients. I said, what if I just slowed down and took care of the existing clients that I have now? What would happen? Well, amazing things happen. Those people started telling other people, et cetera, that started to generate repeat referral business. And now 20 years in the business, it's like, I don't have to do any of the lead generation stuff because I have referral partners who are sending me business, and I've got all my clients who I've done business with over the last 20 years sending me more and more business. And it becomes this flywheel effect that every client you bring on turns into 3 more clients because of the experience. And those 3 turn into 9, and those 9 turn into 18, et cetera, et cetera. And it just is a never ending cycle of a good cycle of repeat and referral business. All right. So when we look at this, obviously conversion timelines, you don't really have control of like how you scale this, right? The whole idea is just make sure you take care of every client every time, no exceptions, no excuses. Obviously, it takes a high level of skill to give somebody a phenomenal experience. It's all profit, right? That's why we love referrals, and there's no competition. So I'm going to give this a B rating, although it could be an A rating. Most people want more referrals. I get it. The only reason I give it a B rating is because you can't really control it. You can't scale it like some of the other lead generation strategies we talked about. All right, moving on to strategy 14, which is niche markets. All right, now, this is my absolute favorite way to generate leads for a lot of different reasons that I'm going to discuss right now. Okay, so first, let me explain what do I mean by niche markets. This means that you're going after a certain demographic who has a very high likelihood of selling while there being zero competition at the same time. Okay, so let me just give you an example. I'm inside my MLS right now. If we just look at one niche that has been really good for me over the years, which is absentee owners, most agents, first off, haven't even heard of these somehow. I don't know how they haven't even heard of it, but there's certainly a lot of agents aren't even working this niche. Now, watch the power of this. If I just go in my MLS and say, okay, if I look at all the properties that have sold in the last year, there are 1,237. All right, so I'm going to write that down. 1,237 sales. This is total. This is all properties, okay? If I just go look and say, okay, what of that market, what percentage are non-owner occupied, meaning they're absentee owners? Maybe it was a second home, it was an investment property, it was an inherited property. If I hit homestead and say no, and I go back to this, I can see, okay, almost 200 of those sales were from this one little niche within my market. In other words, 20% or 2 out of every 10 homes selling in this little hyper local market is from this niche. And I start to say, okay, well, that's interesting. How many agents in my market are actually going after this specific niche? And I find out, wow, nobody. And then I say, okay, well, that's interesting. Is it easy to find these leads? And then I log into a system like Remind, just as an example. You can get this from your title company or a lot of companies out there that provide this type of data. But just as an example, if I just go into that same city and I say, okay, well, let me look and see. And let me just click on absentee owners. I'll just take this out. I can say, and I'll take that city out. Just in that one city alone, there are 2,000 absentee owners just in this one city. And they're super, super easy to get. And so when we talk about niche markets, there are a lot of these. I'll give you another one. Probate is another example where in every city across the country, there are hundreds and thousands of properties being sold via the way of probate court that most agents don't know about, don't know how to work them, don't work them, that you could go and be the absolute expert in, where there's zero competition and there's plenty of opportunity. Same thing with divorce. Same thing with downsizers. Okay, so if you think about downsizers, they make up probably one of another huge portion of all the transactions. These are people that are of retirement age. They live in a home that is more times than not free and clear. They have the main or main bedroom on the second level, and they're at the point in their life where they have to have that bedroom on the main level, and they want something smaller. And so they have this huge house where they raise their kids, all this equity because their home's worth more than it's ever been worth ever. This is where their big portion of their wealth is. They cash out of that thing. You help them sell the big home, right? And then you help them downsize into something smaller. This is like one of my favorite niches because it's like, well, I'd ask you, like, put it in the comments. How many of these niche markets are you yourself working? And you can say, wow, this is a great opportunity. These leads are all really, really easy to find. And so when we look at these types of niches and we look at it from a scoring perspective, when we look at conversion timelines, I mean, you could get quick business out of this. Yeah, it's not going to be maybe like instant, like an expired or first sale by owner, but maybe you start to build a pipeline and 3 to 6 months after building that pipeline starts to spit out consistent listings month over month over month. Skills required is not that high. You don't need a ton of skills to communicate with these niches. It's all pretty much pure profit because you can get these lists of what I call demographic targeting. You can get these lists from any list broker, and there's no competition. That's why I love this. So you can get as much of this business as you want. It's fully scalable, right? There's as much as you want. And that's why I'm going to grade this an A. And so to see this strategy come to life, I recently had one of the agents that I'm coaching on the podcast who's working these niche markets. He breaks all of that down in this video, which you can watch next.